What's up guys, I'm Johnny Valentine with Gain Solar, and today's video is all about working with this big old 4/0 wire. If you're doing a Sol-Ark 15K, you're gonna have to mess with some of this 4/0 wire, and it's a bear to work with, but I'm gonna try to address some of the main questions people have about it. What type of 4/0 to buy for your system, how to work with it, how to manhandle this stuff. And if this video helps you, please like and subscribe. If you have questions specific to your Sol-Ark installation, feel free to comment. As always, my information is at the beginning and the end of this video if you want to contact me for consulting, or if you want to buy equipment, we can custom design your project and I can get you your inverters, your panels, your Sol-Ark, your batteries. And if you buy from me, the consulting for your project is always free. So enjoy this video. I hope it helps you with your Sol-Ark installation, and look forward to hearing from you. Guys, please don't do anything dangerous out there. If you don't feel qualified to hook up your system, contact a local electrician. They work with this kind of wire all the time. Use common sense and be safe out there. So if you're putting in a Sol-Ark 15K, you're going to have to work with some big wire. It's almost easier to put in a 15K the way that it installs, except for the fact that you end up having to mess with some of this big wire. This is 4/0 aluminum. You could get, depending on what your supply house has, you might be able to get THHN/THWN-2. I believe this is XHHW. This is what this stuff's real chalky, but this is compact aluminum type XHHW, and this will work just fine. But you can see it's kind of hard to cut, and there's a couple of tools that make it a lot easier. This is SER cable. This is what we're going to be running when we exit the wireway. This stuff is only good for inside of a raceway or a wireway, and you can phase tape this because it's larger than number 6. If it's smaller than number 6, you've got to use, they want you to use the colors, but when you get into this bigger wire, they will let you phase tape it, which is why so he doesn't get his colors mixed up. But when you come out of this is an old house, but when you come out of a panel, you start wanting to run through the ceiling, you have to use this SER cable, which that's what a piece of SER cable looks like. It has a jacket. You can see that jacket's cut off. But that stuff can basically be installed like Romex, and there's a couple things more that it can do. There's another piece of SER cable. You typically see this used for feeders, and we're going to use that too on this install. All right, so full disclosure, on a lot of my jobs, when I'm going to be working with this stuff, I hire other electricians to help me with it. I've been doing solar for over 10 years and a lot of electrical work with it, but I'll be the first one to tell you I don't have near as much experience working with this big wire as a lot of these other guys out here. And when you can hire a burly young fella to wrestle this 4/0 SER cable for you, it sure does pay for itself. It sure is worth it. And the other nice thing about having a couple of electricians there is when you turn the power off to the house, you have all hands on deck to help you get that power back on, because at some point you're going to have to turn your house off in order to move this big service wire. So you can see he's kind of getting the wire in place and figuring everything out. We want to get as many of our wires in place and torqued down as possible before we turn the power off, so that then we have that much more done and we don't have to worry about making every single connection, right? You don't want to turn your power off and then start trying to run this stuff. You want to have it all in place as much as possible. All right, this is special toy number 1, Racketeer's Bendall, and it goes on the end of a socket like so. And this is intended to allow you to just really get a hold of the wire, because when something else is gripping it for you, you can really put some bendage on it. All right, so the way this works, and I'm showing you one-handed, but you can put a really good bend on this stuff with this thing. Just grab wires and do all kinds of good stuff with them. It's not a replacement for your hands, but it allows you to really get on the wire. So it's like a $30 or $40 tool, but really helps when you're doing something like a transfer switch. You got a lot of tight bends with this big wire. If you don't know how hard this wire is to bend, go get a piece, little 1 foot at Home Depot, and play with it. So next special tool is this guy right here. And this is a huge time saver. You might not be able to justify buying this if you're just gonna do it once. But if you've ever stripped this stuff, this thing just goes so quick. So this thing is awesome, and it'll strip 4 different sizes. And you know, I really only use it for 2, so I could always take these blades out and you get extra blades. But that's a really quick way to strip it, because the code, they don't want you to take a razor knife and ring this. They want you to carve it off. So you can see, like, this guy did it old school. He had to carve it off, and it takes a really long time to make it up. So if you're making up a transfer switch or something and you're doing a lot of terminals, it is a huge time saver. Here's a perfect example of me. I'm going to use the bender, get really tight up on this, and bend this piece so that I can get up into that neutral right there. Another nice tool to have is a set of T-bars. These are the Bondoos I got. And it's just nice to have a set so you're not fumbling through sockets. When I am landing wires, I'm trying to get the bend on it so good that you can see this wire is just lying in the lug. It's not exerting a lot of force. Because if you have so much force that you're just fighting that wire to get it into that lug, and it's not lying in there, then it's going to be putting pressure on it. And stuff is so cheap now in the US. Look at this panel board. It's made in, it's US made stuff, and everything's so cheap. The last thing you want to do is like rip one of your lugs out. When you're going to snug the aluminum, if you don't have a torque wrench, then you need to go out and buy one or borrow one from somebody who does. These terminals need to be torqued to spec, and you see a ton of electricians that just tighten them down. And yeah, they've been doing it for 20 years, so they know how tight the wires need to be. But for DIY or self-install, you need to torque everything to spec with a torque wrench. So SER cable usually got the label on the jacketing is going to say, you know, who makes it, type SE, style R, service entrance. And then it's the type of insulation on the conductor's inside is this XHHW. And it says it's aluminum. It says it's 4/0, and then it's got a 1/0 ground in it. And then, so 3C is 3 conductor. And then it says plus the 1/0 ground, which I'll show you in a better spot. There it is. 3 4/0 AWGs plus a 1/0 ground, or 2/0 ground, I'm sorry. One conductor is 2/0, that's the ground, and it's sunlight resistant, so you can actually run this stuff outside exposed. You ever do that? No. But you can do it, can't you? They use it for, a lot of time you'll see it in like a masthead where if it's an overhead service.
I've seen all services that way.
They'll run this stuff up out of the pipe though, and then they'll strip it out and let the conductors hang out. But then sometimes old services, like when I bought my farmhouse, this stuff was just running up the side of out of the meter, like running up the side of the wall. And then it was, I don't know what they had for the tension of the, I guess they had a wire, like a messenger wire.
Big high bolts that goes onto the house.
Yeah. So this stuff can be a bear to work with. Now Jose's stripping it out. So it has a PVC jacket. Is it a PVC jacket?
Yeah.
So you can slit it and then just kind of pull it back. And then it has the fiberglass or the glass reinforced strengthening tape. That's on the inside of that jacket. That kind of strengthens it, and I believe it aids in the flame retardancy. This video is sponsored by Milwaukee, right? Not. We wish. Are you a Milwaukee man?
Yep.
Look at that. He had his own knife too. That's the inner outer jacketing. You're going to take all that stuff back, and then you've got your conductors. And the nice thing about these versus that single strand XHHW that I was showing you earlier is that these are phased. The colors are already there. So you've got your neutral, your two hots, L1 and L2, and then there's your ground. You don't have to get them confused. You're just cutting all that insulation back. So you just give it a real light cut. Don't cut the conductor, but you're not going to cut it because it's got that thick fiberglass underneath. And then once you got that, oh man, you're rocking the serrated razor knife, aren't you?
Mm-hmm.
Once you cut that right, you just pull that off real easy. Look at that dude, he's a pro. I do love stripping this stuff out, and one thing about it, a pair of scissors works really good for this. I always get made fun of for having scissors, but I always get them borrowed and stolen too, so there must be something right. This is complicated. Landing 4 wires is nothing. Another part you want to remember, Polaris lugs or insulated terminal blocks, and then these are the connectors. This is just like a 2-inch strain relief. They were calling it a Romex connector at my supply house. But this is what we're bringing this stuff in with.
What size is it?
It's what size is it? I hope it's 4/0. It's Urban's first time as a professional electrician using it. 2 or 3 twists and pull off. Jose says he doesn't like it because it doesn't leave the insulation looking clean. What do you think?
I think I could do it better with my knife.
But could you do it as fast?
Probably not. Let me see.
Yeah, let's see how fast you can do it with your knife. Now don't cut yourself. He slits. He violates the code by skinning it. If you wring out aluminum, they're gonna fail you. Is it wrong? Is the question. Did you wring the aluminum?
Bit.
Huh?
A little bit.
Oh. So wringing the aluminum is code violation. That's code violation, Urban. Now look, he reaches instinctively for the correct tool. That's how we know that he's figured out which one's right. It's a good tool. Come on, man.
Is that a code violation right there?
No. No, that's not code violation. But wringing it with your knife is. What do you think? You gonna buy it?
No.
Look at that. So much accuracy. Come on, man. Say it's a better tool.
Than a knife? Yeah.
It's better. 14-year veteran electrician. Licensed in 42 states.
42 states.
You heard it here. He loves it. Say hey to Klein. They're going to sponsor you after this. They're going to send you a whole new backpack.
Fine. Send me one of these.
Okay, so now we're in the thick of it. We've got the power out. Our transfer switch, which we're using as a bypass, is wired. And we basically got 2 connections to make. We need to make a connection from our load output of our transfer switch into the panel we're going to be backing up. So in order to do that, we've got to remove these feeders that are coming from the utility. We're going to splice them in this box we've set next to the main panel. And then we're going to feed that power over into our transfer switch. And that's the grid side of the transfer switch up top. So you can see we got a couple guys here to help with this, because this is the most stressful part. Actually, we can't talk about working with this big wire without talking about how to splice it. So just like you hear toilet paper or tissue paper referred to as Kleenex, you're going to hear these things called Polaris lugs, Polaris connectors. There's one right there. That's a good one. Use this one all the time to go straight through. If you're going to splice this big wire, this is what you have to use. So these are by Polaris, and I think Polaris may have been the first one to come out with these, but they have them in all different sizes. They're typically can be hex head when you go to tighten it inside, on the inside of that connector, and some of them are pass through. They make them where they can handle multiple cables, so you can get a 5 slot. But this is what you use to splice this stuff. And if you don't have a supply house nearby that has a good stock of these, then you're going to have to order them. So you want to make sure you order the one that's got the correct wire range for the wire you're working with. So you're typically going to be in this area right here, 250 to 6. 3/0 to 6 is not where you want to be. And then there's also, you see these ones by Burndy. There's a lot of these around. I see these guys. And they have a little dollop of oxide inhibitor in them. The Burndy stuff is just as good as the Polaris, in my opinion. The Unitap. So this is what you use to splice this big wire. There are no wire nuts. You can also use squeeze-ons, but I don't have a squeeze-on tool, and but if you're an awesome electrician, you might have a squeeze-on tool. But the Burndy Unitap or the Polaris connector is the preferred way to splice these big wires.